Hi, and welcome to this live reading from One Last Wish from the Elderworld series, book number 1 by B.L. Wilde. And this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue. Shadows were all I could see. Death was waiting for me, lurking in the darkness. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a single thing. Love was worth the sacrifice. In any lifetime, I would choose this outcome. I would always choose him. Closing my eyes, I waited for the sweet release. A single tear trickled down my face as I imagined him calling out to me. But it was too late. I'd already seen the light fade from his beautiful eyes. Love. I held on to that. We would see each other again in a different existence. My soul would leave my body as they drained me, but no matter how hard they tried, our love, even in death, would be unbreakable. We would always win. Chapter 1. Hold on, don't you dare break. The voice was soft, yes, yet forceful. Every inch of me was drawn towards it, breaking piece by piece to obey the command. Something was so familiar in the tone. It felt as if my bones remembered that soft caress, but I had no idea why. Please, hold on, just a little longer, the male voice soothed, pulling me from my slumber. I jolted up in bed, disoriented for a few short moments. Where was I? Oh, right. My bedroom. That was the third dream this week. Ugh, I had more than enough things to worry about, and now I could add strange dreams to my list. Great. When was I going to catch a freaking break? I'd always been a misfit, you know, the kind, someone who got bullied at school just for being divergent. The kids that were consistently picked last for sport teams. The ones whose names were always forgotten by the teacher because they faded into the background. Even as I got older, things never got better. I simply learned how different I was from everyone else. The only person I could depend on was myself, and I was fine with that. Being a loner had its perks, though. I didn't have to bother with anyone. That might sound like a shitty thing to say, but I've always been better on my own anyway. Most oddballs find out other outsiders at some point. However, connection and love had always been an alien concept to me. When my father died, I didn't shed a tear. He was my last living relative, and I felt no emotion at his loss whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, I went to his funeral to show my respect. I placed 16 white roses on his grave, one for each year that we had spent together. I didn't hate him. That wasn't the reason I didn't feel his loss. My father and I had an amazing 16 years together. He was the only person who truly understood me and how different I truly was. I distanced myself from everyone, including him, but he always gave me the space I needed without question. He never pushed for my affection and understood I was unique. Losing him suddenly at that young age damaged me beyond repair. It left a hole that never healed. I was empty, really. At 24, I was a ticking time bomb, angry about nothing and everything. Life wasn't something I enjoyed anymore. It was monotonous and draining. As depressing as it sounded, I had considered ending my life numerous times in the last year. Everywhere I looked, I was reminded that I didn't fit in. I was always the oddball, socially awkward with most people. I could make small talk, sure, laugh at the right part of someone's joke, but inside I was screaming, looking for that connection with someone. It never happened, though. Real people, as strange as it sounded, never interested me. Books were my only solace. They allowed me to be transported to another world to become a completely different person. I drowned myself in fantasies about strong assassins, dragon riders, fairies, witches, airbenders, forces of good and evil, princesses that saved their kingdoms, and elementals with untapped power. All of those stories were better than the life I was currently leading and gave me a way to escape reality. Have you scanned the new books that came in this morning? Theo, my workmate, called out to me. I'm working on it. It was no surprise that I worked at a bookstore. For the last 3 years, my boss Malcolm had allowed me to read as many books as I wanted. It was the best kind of bonus. Free books. Have you seen that Secret Assassin is out a week on Monday? I gave Theo an exasperated look. Of course I fucking knew. Why was this guy still trying to get into my panties? I'd shut him down a ridiculous number of times the last few years. I was never going to go on a date with him. Theo wasn't a bad-looking guy, really, if you were into the boy next door look. His short, light brown hair, baby blue eyes, and dependable personality were qualities lots of females searched for, but that wasn't my thing at all. My roommate Evelyn had joked about his lovesick puppy dog eyes when we went out together last month. Are you going to the secret midnight release at Book Junkies like last year? Oh, I'm not sure yet. Shit. Didn't want him gate crashing Evelyn and me like before. It depends on Evelyn. She might be out of town visiting her folks. I don't mind going with you. Why wouldn't you give up already? Yeah, I'll let you know. Rolling my eyes, I moved out of his view and picked up a small stack of books that were ready to be shelved. But Bookends was the most beautiful bookshop near the corner of Cherry Street in Manhattan, New York. It had been a church in a previous life, which gave the bookshop its magical appearance. There were 3 floors full of tall oak bookshelves. The grand red-carpeted staircase to the upper floor was something straight from a fantasy book. It was one of the reasons I'd suggested moving the entire fantasy genre up there. The stunning spiral wood carvings up the staircase had the appearance of a twisted forest. It needed to be polished monthly, but it was a job that I enjoyed, to be honest. The carved balusters had a twisted leaf pattern, but the handrail was smooth. On the top floor, the staircase split in two, and the most beautiful stained glass skylight made the light stream in a prism of colors against the books and space below. I could never quite work out the picture, but to me it looked like a multicolored sun with hundreds of beams exploding from it. There was a basement level that got pretty damp at times. Perks of opening a shop in an old church in New York, I guess. Travel and self-help books were mostly kept down there, along with our break room. The ground floor was the largest space, with all its hidden corners and reading nooks behind the large towering pillars. There was even a secret room behind one of the bookshelves. We kept the rare and expensive books there under lock and key. When I first set foot in this place for my interview, it strangely felt like home. Malcolm offered me a job within minutes, and 4 years later, I was still here. Did you need a hand with those? Theo asked as he peered around the corner of the shelf I was stacking on the ground floor, making me jump. I was going to punch him one day. Hated it when he stalked me like that. No, I'm good. Thanks, Theo. I kind of want to be left on my own. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you needed a hand. He sounded so hopeful. Nope, I replied, popping the pea. Finally, he got the message and left me alone. I couldn't understand what he saw in me, or why countless men tried to hit on me for that matter. I had the appearance of a dying woman. No, hear me out. I'm not exaggerating. My skin was as white as ice, and not in a cute Snow White way. It appeared more grayish and unhealthy, like the skin tone you have when you're ill. My skin was always cold, too. My father told me I'd had this weird virus as a kid and never fully recovered from it. My hair was silver. Well, gray, but I like to say silver because it sounds better. And it had this amazing shine when the sun hit it. That was probably because of the virus, too. It had literally sucked all the color from me. My body was the best thing I had going for me. I was lean but curvy in all the right places. It was probably the main reason I got attention from guys. My amber eyes may have been unique, but against my ice-cold skin, yeah, I often looked like I'd just come out of the morgue. Why is this girl so hard on herself? I hear you all ask. Well, with a name like Alora Windwood? Are you surprised? Who even calls their kid Alora these days? I would never amount to anything. I'd probably be working at Bookends until the day I died. No one, except my father, had ever cared about me. Okay, guys liked me, but because I was different from most girls, but they only wanted one thing, my body. Once they got that, I became a fading memory. Not that I minded. When it came to sex, one-night stands were perfect for me. It was much better if the guy didn't even talk. A hookup down the back of an alley or in a public toilet worked pretty well. I never brought a guy home with me. Hated all the small chat in the morning. The fake promise of seeing each other again. Why couldn't people be honest and say, yeah, thanks for the fuck. I don't want to see you again. See you around. Life would be so much easier if people were honest and true to themselves. Every day at work, I saw people come into the bookshop, disappointment deep in their eyes. They hated their 9-to-5 job, the daily grind, but did nothing to improve it. Sure, they'd buy a book to escape in for a short while, but that was it. My life was a pretty pathetic too, but so I couldn't judge them. I was doing exactly the same thing. I was existing, not living, and fucking sick of it. I wondered what it would feel like to be erased from existence and fall into one of my fantasy books. No one would even notice that I'd gone anyway. Theo would find a new crush, one that he eventually actually stood a chance with. Evelyn would easily find a new roommate. I'd fade from their memory within weeks and finally be at peace. Anywhere was better than right here. I always considered that I had disliked myself so much because I technically killed my mother in childbirth. My father had always scolded me when I spoke those words out loud. Apparently, she'd loved me from the moment I kicked her in her stomach. She'd held me for a few short moments before dying, telling my father that my name was Alora and that I was a precious jewel that needed protecting at all costs. Me, a precious jewel. It was hilarious to even consider it. I don't know why I spent so much time thinking about them both. Neither of them were coming back. They were both dead, and I was alone. Alora, can you lock up tonight? My boss Malcolm asked as he wandered out of his office. He was a middle-aged man with a gut and receding hairline. His office was behind one of the 8 pillars on the ground floor. Mary is called in sick. Again? Yeah, sure. It wasn't like I had anything to go home for. Another few hours of work meant extra money to spend on alcohol at the weekend. I don't mind cashing up if you want to head off early. The room I rented at Evelyn's apartment down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass in Brooklyn was the perfect setup for me with work. All I had to do was walk over the bridge. It was only a few blocks from there. Great, thanks. You could be assistant manager by next year if you keep up the good work. Oh, what a joyous thought. At least I'd be around books, though. I'd be able to lock myself in Malcolm's office when he wasn't in and read all day. Theo, there's a customer waiting to pay. Malcolm yelled in his direction, making Theo jump. Why is he staring at me again? I'd moved toward the back shelves now, putting the last few books on display. That boy ever stop stalking me? Maybe I should take a fucking picture of myself for him. It would last longer. I'd be flipping the bird in it. A startled Theo rushed over to serve the customer, embarrassed that he'd been caught staring at me again. You really need to be straight with him, Alora. Oh, trust me, I've tried. He doesn't listen. I've friend-zoned him 100 times. Maybe you need to give him less shifts with me? I do try, but he always manages to swap to your shifts again. I have no idea how he does it. Wow, it was worse than I thought. A lovesick fool, I sighed. I'm sure Theo would have left this job years ago if you weren't here. That I did believe. If he becomes too much, I don't mind having a word with him. No, I can fight my own battles. My tone was a little harsh, but I didn't need protection from anyone. Malcolm stepped back a little offended. Shit. Why did I always lash out? I could have apologized, but that wasn't my style. Instead, I carried on shelving the last few books in my hands as Malcolm walked away. I managed to lock up a few minutes early. Theo helped me cash the till. It was useful for something. I ignored his ramblings about a cool bar downtown that I should try with Evelyn and him. Did you want to go for a drink? He asked, watching me put the alarm code in. I was thinking it would be a nice way to end the day. We only have to have one. It's my treat, too. Rolling my eyes where he couldn't see, I replied, No, I'm heading home. I didn't give him a chance to reply. Putting my headphones in my ears, I turned and walked away, happy that we lived in different directions. I'd have probably moved if Theo lived anywhere near me. My walk home was always peaceful. The streets were crammed with people, but when I had my music on, it drowned out all the hustle and bustle. I had a love of classical music, thanks to my father. Tonight, I had an epic movie score and began visualizing scenes from the latest fantasy book I was reading. A normal human girl had fallen into a magical realm and was the key to breaking a cruel prince's curse. The sex scenes in it were pretty decent, too. It was about halfway through, but was too tired to continue reading it tonight. Before I knew it, I was home. Evelyn had left a note saying she was out with her college friends and to eat the leftover pizza in the fridge. She mothered me too much. That didn't stop me from scanning the fridge. It was a pepperoni pizza, my favorite. Couldn't let that go to waste. Eating it in the microwave and grabbing a can of soda, I wandered into my bedroom. My room wasn't much. I was a minimalist kind of person. I had a double bed, side table with a lamp, and a small wardrobe. That was it. The walls were all white with no pictures. It was a calming space. Pulling my laptop out from under the bed, I put something on in the background while I ate my food. I was knackered, having worked 5 days in a row. Thank fuck it was Saturday tomorrow. One more shift and I'd finally get a day off. Deciding to put a movie on, I got dressed into my comfortable night shorts and top. The film had hardly started before I fell asleep. I'd been having a recurring dream the last few weeks, and as I slipped into the dreamland, it was waiting there for me again.